You know that moment when you're trying to get something done, but you keep getting distracted? You start working, and 30 minutes later, you're scrolling through social media, watching YouTube videos, or just staring at the wall, thinking about how much you don't want to work right now. Today, we're breaking down why this happens and how to fix it. So let's start. First, let's talk about why we lose focus in the first place. Think about this. When you're working on something, your brain naturally divides the task into little chunks. Let's call them checkpoints. If you're writing, a checkpoint might be a paragraph. If you're coding, maybe it's finishing one function. Even when listening to a lecture or a podcast, your brain is still creating these checkpoints, though they may not be as obvious. For example, a lecture might be structured around explaining different concepts one by one, and each concept acts as a checkpoint. Whatever the task, your mind operates in segments. Here's where things go wrong. You're actually pretty focused while working inside a checkpoint. If you're in the middle of writing a sentence, you kinda already know what the next words will be, so distractions don't hit as hard. But the moment you finish that chunk, boom, danger zone. And this is where it starts looking like procrastination before even starting the whole task. You unconsciously delay the next checkpoint. Or for example, if you're listening to a lecture, you might just stop thinking about what's being said. Maybe you think, all right, let me just check my messages real quick and then I'll continue. Or you just automatically start thinking about something unrelated. The options are endless, but the result is the same. You don't continue immediately, and the longer that pause stretches, the harder it gets to start again. And even more dangerous are those unexpected checkpoints, moments where you hit a wall and suddenly your brain doesn't know what to do next. That's when you magically remember that you urgently need to check your emails or reorganize your desktop icons. Anything but actually pushing through the barrier. So how do we fix this? Well, I've got two main things for you. The first one is making the transition between checkpoints as smooth as possible, and the second one is learning to control your thoughts. But these aren't just two separate ideas. The first is more like a practical tweak for those predictable checkpoint gaps, while the second is a more general skill, especially useful for unexpected checkpoints and during more passive learning moments, like listening to a lecture. So let's break them down. Let's start with making those transitions smoother. In simple terms, when you know you're moving from one checkpoint to the next, you need to consciously make that move without pausing. Start the next part immediately, and it doesn't matter if it's perfect at first. The important part is directing your thoughts and actions right towards the next checkpoint. To help with this, you can add small supporting actions. It's kind of a personal thing, but for example, you can try to think about the next checkpoint just before finishing the current one. Like, as you wrap up one paragraph, think about how you'll start the next one, but don't stop writing. Just get those ideas going in your mind so you can immediately grab onto them when it's time to start. The key here is not to let the gap between checkpoints become too big. The less time you give your brain to wander, the better. Now let's talk about training your mind to stay focused. This is where things like concentration exercises come in. You've probably heard of meditation where you sit down and focus on your breathing, right? The whole point is to practice shutting out distractions. The moment an unrelated thought pops in, you recognize it, push it away, and refocus on breathing. That's literally a workout for your attention span. If sitting and focusing on your breath isn't your thing, you can still train your focus in other ways. You can use this same idea for training your focus in everyday tasks. Try setting a timer for 5 minutes and committing to focusing only on your task. No distractions, no side thoughts. Once you master 5 minutes, increase it to 10, then 15. Over time, you'll build mental endurance. So that's it. Now go out there and crush your next task.